As the leader of the Booner Pad, I lead from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the up, boys.
It's pumping right now. It's got my juice pumping, boys.
Welcome to Crunch Time Sports with Jeff Iafrate and Booner. It is Monday, November 10th. We are back. All right, after a Lions win yesterday, beating the Washington Commanders, Dan Campbell with his reading glasses and play call sheet, calling plays. Johnny Moe no longer calling plays. We're live an hour earlier today. We're going 7 to 8, and then we're going to do our watch party 8 to whatever the game's over. So we got a long night of streaming ahead of us, but hopefully you guys will hang out with us every step of the way. So hope everyone's doing well. Always good when the Lions win, and it's even better when storylines come out of it. And there's a shit ton of storylines coming out of this one, Boone. There's a lot of it.
Yeah, this one was one of probably the most. I mean, since we've been going with Crunch Time, and I know there's been a lot of things like the Commanders loss. A lot of this one felt like one of the bigger moments over the last year. Turning on the game yesterday, and you have Dan Campbell rocking the glasses, and everyone's like, "Wait a second, what is happening right now?" And then he obviously confirms it at halftime, and then after the game, and then everything he talks to the media today and gives the reasoning and everything behind it. And it's crazy that it all kind of unfolded. That's like the world we live in, is me and you, dude. Like we talk all the time about, man, there's not a lot of content. Content just gets thrown at us, and big things like this just happens. So, I'm interested. I listened to you this morning about your thoughts on it. I'm interested to kind of get a little bit more conversation in regards to the play calling and how all of this went down, and what's the kind of the thought process moving forward. I saw you tweet out your front runner for offensive coordinator, which I thought was really funny. I thought it was really funny, but yeah, I'm interested. I'm pumped up to talk this. I'm excited to see what
that one. Say. By the way, that was a. I mean, I love it. I love whenever something I put out, it splits a crowd. I enjoy that, because then it means it's something. Obviously, it's something that's a little controversial, but I like it. And we'll get to it. We'll get to that later. I do want to bring up maybe a nominee that I have for offensive coordinator if Dan Campbell decides to not call plays for the foreseeable future. Not for this season. I'm talking about for years to come, but we'll get to that as well. I will say too, today, Dan Campbell spoke to the media, talked more about just the decision that went into it. And I got a lot of respect for Dan for a lot of different reasons. One of them is he will never throw anybody under the bus. This guy will not throw anybody under the bus. It doesn't matter who it is. And I got so much respect for Dan in that matter, man. Like he even comes out today, and they're like, the media, of course, and they're going to ask this because people want to know. It's, everything related to the offensive coordinator stuff. And he's just, he even like kind of, he was like being self-deprecating. Like he was kind of crapping on himself as a play caller to like pump up the guys around him. Like it's just, it's true leadership, man. He was like, I mean, like he talked about it yesterday, Goff bailed me out. Then he talked about it today. The game plan, it took all the coaches. I got input from Hank Fraley, David Shaw, Tashard Choice, John Morton. He's giving credit to everyone but himself, which is like a true leader. It really is. So I love it.
Today, he just knows how to go about it. We talked about it in the post game yesterday, where it's just like he knows how to keep a building together. Like even with there's bad things that happen, Dan Campbell just knows how to hey, this is what I need to do to make sure everyone stays together. And quite frankly, too, there obviously was an issue, because you watch all the post-game interviews with all the players, and they're obviously, you could tell, listen, we're not dumb, right? We've worked in the media a while. Fans have been fans for a while. When players kind of feel type of way, we watch them, and, we listen to them talk every week. It was obvious, watching post-game interviews, that, these guys were trying not to give anything away, but you could tell they were pretty happy with the way the game went and who was calling plays, right? All of these guys were, and they were essentially saying it without having to say it. And it was like, okay, this is pretty telling with how kind of the building felt in regards to John Morton play calling. And they obviously felt like they hit a wall with it. And even today, Dan speaks to the media, and it's just they ask him, he just continues to get perfect answers. Because they ask him, hey, is John Morton, is this done? Is he done? And he's like, I would say he's done. Like, he might start calling plays sooner than you actually think. It's like he's done. Like, we know he's done. And Dan's like trying to like be like, well, like how I kind of groomed Ben Johnson. Like, maybe it's just me grooming Ben or John Morton these next 8 or 9 games, and he'll be ready to go next year. It's like, Dan, we all know John Morton is not going to be calling plays for the Detroit Lions ever again. And you could tell that from like the player interviews. Like, those guys were, you could tell how excited and happy they were that there was some sort of change that was made. And they probably don't hate John Morton, but like, if you, as a player, you know, like, hey man, like, this is a great offense. And like, they weren't using it and utilizing it the way they should have been. And then they figured it out, just like boom, just like that. It's like, okay, yeah, we know, you know. So
yeah, did you see the we'll play it. We could play it again, but that Jahmyr Gibbs clip, like him kind of slipping up and saying like they just didn't know what we were gonna do. Like, that's like such a, with how he didn't know, and I think he obviously he doesn't mean to do that. So I think he's just being honest, which is the right thing to do, just being completely honest. But like, that's telling. It's like
extremely.
Okay, it's like so you're essentially saying without saying that your offense has been predictable. That's essentially what he's saying. Like, it's which I'm sure they've watched all the film, and that's why Dan was probably like, yeah, I'm going to switch things up from the offensive coordinator role. Get Boy One says, why y'all live so early? So we're, just to clarify for people that are wondering, we're live earlier today because we're going to be live during the Packers-Eagles game. So we're going to be live on our watch. We're doing a watch party for that. So we'll be live for the entire Eagles-Packers game. It's a big game in the NFC. I mean, it's 2 opponents the Lions are playing in the next couple weeks. So, yeah, actually, next week the Lions play them. So we'll be watching that tonight. So we're live a little bit earlier. Before we get to more of the offensive coordinator stuff, big news happened before the show. And we have our good friend here in the chat. Great friend. My son, Ahmed Hassanein, re-signed. And
let's go.
Saw it right before
huge
show,
news.
Right before we went live. Shout out to Ahmed Hassanein. He is back. The Lions officially signed rookie edge Ahmed Hassanein to their practice squad. The Lions 6th-round pick returns after being waived on an injury settlement during training camp. So he is back on the practice squad, which is kind of how the Lions are going to do this thing. He'll practice, and then once he's ready, he'll be elevated, and then you have more depth in that edge room. So Ahmed is back in the part of this organization, at least trending back. But he'll be contributing to some extent this season, even if it's in a smaller capacity. But I'm excited he's back. They kind of need some more depth there. And I think he can bring some juice for sure to that D-line. So I like it. It's great news for the Lions.
Yeah, I'm excited actually to just more depth. Like, they obviously didn't make a trade at the deadline at the edge position, and that was something that everyone was kind of not questioning as much as like the offensive line. But you know, you've had some injuries. I think Brad knew on the back end, like, hey, we're getting some guys back, Marcus Davenport, Ahmed Hassanein, and you're getting reinforcements coming. I'm excited because if you guys don't remember, like, Ahmed in preseason, he looked really good. Like, he was out there making plays, like blowing up plays. Run defense was good. Like, everything was actually really good in the preseason. It was just very unfortunate that injury kind of came along. And if that injury didn't happen, like with Marcus Davenport going out, you probably would see Ahmed Hassanein throughout this season, and you would have been able to get a good idea of what he is about and who he is, and that his development would have really taken off with that Marcus Davenport injury. It would have been AQM and you would think Ahmed Hassanein. So I'm excited to see once he gets back. Yeah, I think it's perfect, and hopefully, and then the biggest thing, Jeff, I think, like, I hope that he gets back and they give him reps, and he gets reps so he can develop, right? Like, he's just not on the practice squad, and like, I hope, like, yeah, obviously it's probably going to be a couple weeks until we fully get to see him and get on a game day roster. But as soon as he does, I'm excited to see him just get those reps and get that under his belt a little bit, because I think he is, long-term wise, I think he can be a piece on this team. He's got all the talent in the world. We've talked about that a million times. All the talent in the world.
Yeah, I mean, Phil says, could some team cherry pick him? Yes, but he would have to agree to leave, which he's not going to, obviously. So, yes and no. Yes, because he's on the practice squad. No, because Ahmed, it's like a handshake agreement that he knows he's coming back to the roster, so he's not going nowhere. He's fine on the practice squad. I think they just do this so he can not rehab like he's been, but you get what I'm saying. Kind of get back without taking up a roster spot. It's like a win-win for them. So he's on the practice squad to work his way back, and when he's fully ready to contribute and play, and he's healthier or healthy, period, they will put him on the active roster. And this is what we talked about when he first got cut, like you kind of mentioned. It's like we knew this was we knew this was going to happen. I know you see he gets released, but it's like we knew he was coming back at some point. It was just it had to do with a lot of things, the IR, the number of IRs they were using. It's like John Macaroon talked about it as well. So it's good he's back. And yeah, I mean, they didn't add anything to the edge room, which, by the way, they do need a little juice right now. I mean, I've been looking at some of AQM's like pass rush win rate. It has been kind of dropping a little bit as of late. It's just not that he's been bad. It's just he's kind of slowly coming back down a little bit. So they do need some more. And this is when Davenport's coming back. So hopefully Davenport can provide a little bit of juice. I know that you probably hate saying that out loud, but it's just the truth. He's going to have to provide a little bit. They've been playing a lot of Tyler Lacey on rundowns, and Lacey's been pretty solid. But Tyrus Wheat, Tyler Lacey, I mean, that's kind of all they have to work with right now. Well, I mean, look, dude, remember like when I talked about with Ahmed and we had that bet in regards to the sacks, the biggest thing with that was just like when his numbers called, the thing that I trust a lot about Ahmed Hassanein is when he does get healthy and his opportunity does come like that. We talked about him through the draft process forever. And it's just like, that's a guy who gets an opportunity and will not let that opportunity go. You know, he'll take advantage of every part of it. So if AQM, if this trajectory doesn't keep going, you're going to need a spark. And I'm not saying obviously Ahmed's going to come in and start and all this, but say, hey, just like you need more depth, man. You do, especially since you don't have that kind of that clear number 2 across from Aiden Hutchinson at this point. Yeah. Even if he can give you a couple snaps, couple pass rush situations, and he's, Pascal's coming back. Another one Phil mentioned, like Pascal will come back. He's going to help out on rundowns because this run defense definitely misses Josh Pascal, and you see that. So Josh will definitely help out on that front. I think Ahmed can be a pretty good run defender, but he's a better pass rusher already. And he has only been playing football for a handful of years, in my opinion, than probably Josh Pascal. Like he's more of a natural pass rusher. So Ahmed, I think, is a higher ceiling in that regard. So it's good news there. But yeah, shout out to him. I did want to play this clip. This is Dan Campbell talking about the play calling thing today. So they asked him, he had his press conference, asked him about taking over play calling. He talked about it after the game, but I guess this is kind of like the day after answer for Dan Campbell. Now that he had his Victory Monday coffee with Holly, and then he got to the office. Now he got to ask the question. They asked the question. Now he gets to answer it. So here's Dan Campbell talking about that decision to take over play calling and kind of what everything that it entails.
To do right now, and I'm going to do it. Am I perfect? No, I'm not perfect. Players are going to have to bail me out. They bailed me out yesterday on a couple of things. Jared Goff bailed me out, so the staff bailed me out. But that's what teamwork's about, man. We got to all help each other out. And
now, I will say, for Dan, he did kind of allude to it. He's going to continue this for the rest of the year. He's
yeah. He said it was going to be just this week. It's going to end up being full season. I don't see a world where you like, hey, here's the keys back to John Morton.
Yeah, you can't. It's like I compare it to like the backup quarterback thing, man. If you have a starter that's already and then you have a backup that you think about starting, once you make that change, you can't go back.
Yeah,
it's like you've already made the decision, especially if the backup plays really well and you win. It's already decided. He's your starter for the foreseeable future. It's like that's just how it's going to be. You can't give the keys back to John Morton and then have to risk having to take it away again. Then that's an indictment on Dan then at that point, because then it's like, well, dude, you had success calling plays, just keep doing it.
Yep.
And I know I want to actually put up Jim's tweet that you sent me, because Jim had a great tweet today talking about play calling head coaches, which I've always said it's a supreme advantage in the NFL, because if you have a head coach that calls plays, you don't have to worry about your offensive coordinator ever going anywhere. Obviously, defensive coordinator as well. If he's a defensive guy, that works as well. And actually, Dan Quinn is officially calling plays for the Commanders, ironically enough, after that game in which they got torched. He's taking over play calling duties.
I saw that today.
So it happens on both sides. I'm just talking about really mainly offensive guys, because that's where the league's going, is offensive coaches. And Jim put this tweet out, and it says, with Dan Campbell taking over play calling, I looked into it deeper. Head coach is calling their side of the ball. So it's defensive coaches as well. Majority do it, 18 of 32, 4 of top 5 offenses, which is important. 10 of 14 teams currently in the playoffs, which is also very important. So it's a supreme advantage for a lot of different reasons. And the biggest one is the continuity. You don't have to keep finding offensive coordinators or defensive coordinators. Your coach is the coordinator. Now, the downside is that it is a balance. Like Sean McVay, for example, with the Rams, probably spends a lot of time with Matthew and spends a lot of time with the offense, but he has to spend time with the defense and, and kind of do what the head coach is supposed to do, but also game plan offensively. But that's why you have assistants that help you get ready for the game. And I think that's what Sean McVay's offensive coordinator essentially does. It's kind of like what John Morton's going to do. It helps. It basically gives Sean McVay, or gives Dan in this instance, the answers to the test, and Dan just calls the plays. That's how I kind of see it. That's how I interpret it.
Yeah, I think the positive, I don't know if you if people heard Dan today, like Dan mentioned today, he was like, listen, I don't think people realize I've been in every single one of these meetings with Jared Goff, John Morton, and the offense. Like, those are meetings that Dan, I'm sure, doesn't miss, especially the fact that John Morton was in year one. Obviously, there's probably been some struggling over the last few weeks. So I feel like nothing really is I feel like everything's going to be the same, obviously, besides just Dan making the decision on what plays they're running. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, he's been in, he said today, he's like, I've been in every single meeting all year, offensive meeting. Like, he's like, when they're going over play calls the night before games, when they're going over game plans throughout the week, offenses meeting, when Jared and John's meet, he's like, I'm in those meetings. So I just feel like nothing's changed. I feel like it might be a little bit better, because if we're being quite honest, who knows this offense just as much as, let's say, Ben Johnson did? It's Dan Campbell. For sure. And like John Morton probably was never going to get to that point to where you could have gotten to last year when it comes to the knowledge of what these guys do, because he wasn't he was in the building, and that was something, I said that forever. Like, hey, he did help create this offense, but it was really just Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson, right? Like, for the last 4 years, like, that's who it's been. And the only other person in this building outside of Jared Goff who really knows the ins and outs of what this offense is about, how they've built this offense, what works best, what doesn't work, it's Dan Campbell. And you could argue he might be the number one guy in that building. So this is the argument I was making yesterday on the post game. Like, if I'm Dan Campbell, honestly, Jeff, yeah, you can hire a new OC. I love your idea of hiring, one of these fired head coaches. I'm honestly, like, I'm out on it. Let Dan Campbell be your play caller moving forward. And yeah, it was one game, so like, it could end up not working out. This could fire and backfire on me. I was a John Morton guy. But a guy like Dan, like today, like, one of the telling things, I texted to you, like, him being like, yeah, when I fired Anthony Lynn, or when Anthony Lynn got stepped down and we promoted Ben Johnson to OC, essentially, he's like, I was calling those plays for 9 games. That was me. When the majority of people thought it was Ben, and thought Ben was like slowly getting into that role. And it's like, Dan might be the closest thing we could ever get to Ben Johnson and get to Ben Johnson. Like, we could go hire any young assistant we want, anyone we want. This offense is like, it's ran a certain way, and him and Ben Johnson created it to run a certain way. And I think it was very telling yesterday. I don't care who you were playing. If you just watch this offense yesterday, like, that's what it looked like last year in their best games. Like, it was just so fluent. And every play call, even Dan being like, hey, I messed a play call up. But guess what? Like, those guys are in positions to still make plays because of the play call and because of the flow of the game. And you could tell just how comfortable they felt. You really could.
I would love, my preference is Dan to be the play caller, because I'm all for it. It's what I wanted. I want my head coach to call plays offensively. I want it. That's my preference. I tweeted out my suggestion is more of a contingency if Dan decides he doesn't want to do it. Then you have to look elsewhere. But I hope Dan does it. I really do. And him and Ben were on the same page, and he talked about it today too in the press conference that that following year when Ben was calling plays, it got to a point, Dan said, where he didn't really have to even like worry about it because they were so in sync. It seems like this year John Morton and him are like not. Dan's vision, John Morton is struggling. They're not lining up. And that's what basically Dan had to do this past game is be like, all right, I'm just going to call plays so I can just show you what the hell I mean. This is what I want it to look like.
And it was obvious yesterday. Like, it was very obvious. You could tell. And I know like people, touches, people in the chat, like Keys to Wisdom's like, it was a bad defense. I don't care if it was a bad, like, one, it's the NFL, right? Like, put 40 points up in any game. It's really good. But the flow of the game, like, I don't think people understand. They did not punt once. They scored on every single drive of the game. I even tweeted this out, Jeff. Like, the Jameson Williams possession, did you notice? Like, I went back and I watched the whole game, and I went back and marked down. I don't have my notebook. I left it at my house. But I marked down, like, every time they got a first down, if they got a first down on first down, second down, third down. I was like 3 quarters in. They had like 10 first downs on first down. Like 1st and 10, they get a first down. 1st and 10, first down. 1st and 10, first down. I was at like 10 plus, and I was only in the third quarter. They had the Jameson Williams possession, Jeff. They had 5 plays in that possession. There was 4 first downs and 1 touchdown. Every single play they got a first down, besides the play they scored a touchdown. Like, that's incredible. That has nothing to do with how bad a defense is. That's more so just like, hey, this offense is in the best rhythm that we have seen all season long. And now this Sunday night, that's going to be very telling. Like, we're going to find out quick, like, can Dan Campbell really play call? And if they go out there and they score 30 points on the Eagles, if they put 27 points up on the Eagles and this offense looks fluid and you're like, oh, wait a second. It needs to be Dan Campbell's offense, man. It really does. And it needs to be that going forward until that man's no longer the head coach. He needs to turn into Andy Reid at that point.
I tried finding the graphic that I think it was a Lions beat writer that put it out. I'm trying to find it, man, because I really want to show it because it shows how right here, got it. Here we go. Let me put this up. So Eric Schlitt, shout out to Eric Schlitt, he put this out, and this is basically all of JMO's routes against the Commanders, and look how different this looks. Crossers.
Looks good, man.
Yeah, the comeback, two comeback routes on each sideline. But, like, look at the middle of the field, man. Like, you're not, and one of them went for a touchdown, you can see there, but all these are just crossing routes that you cannot catch him. He's gone. He gets the football, he's gone. And that's what I love to see. I love how they're utilizing Jameson Williams, and they utilize him in that game. And again, 2 things can be true. The Commanders good defensively, no, but no one's saying that. We're talking about how it looked. This looked better. I don't care if it's the Commanders, the Eagles, the Chiefs. This dude should have been doing this all year. All right.
It felt more fluent. It really did. Like, it just felt like this offense just had some sort of rhythm. When even if they didn't, like, if it was a bad play, what do? They bounced back and had a better play. And it was constant. Like, it was just like every possession. Again, they didn't have one bad possession where you're like, what happened there? They really didn't.
Yeah, like this head scratcher, head play calls. There wasn't. It was great.
I want to say this because you're a big Ben Johnson guy, right? And that's not a bad thing. Again, like I think Ben Johnson's gonna be really good. Obviously, they have the same record as the Lions, and he's in Chicago. Like, it's telling. Like, he's a very good coach, good play caller, great offensive mind. I don't want to say like, hey, Dan Campbell's Ben Johnson. We know what Ben Johnson is, one of the best play callers and offensive minds in the NFL right now. Dan Campbell might not be able to get to that point where it's like the Ben Johnson, like some of the thoughts that he has in the what's like the creative plays, right? When you're talking about like the stumble play and all these creative plays that it kind of goes through Ben Johnson's mind. But when you just talk about like him running this offense, like, I think people are going to see a little bit more. And this is an argument I've had with you actually in the past. We've gone back and forth where like, hey, the credit to Dan and Ben. I've always said, like, I think if Dan, we should go back. I think it was like a week ago we actually talked about it. If Dan had play calling abilities, like, he would actually be a good play caller. I don't think people have given him enough credit the last couple of years, Dan Campbell, off of like his offensive mind. And a lot of people, like, it comes up where people are like, oh, he's a meathead. I genuinely think that's like a analogy that people use. He's a legit, like, very good offensive mind. And these players say it, and they're like, no one talks about it. And then today he comes out and confirms, like, I was calling plays for 9 games out of a season, and we looked really good. And, like, obviously the season got turned around at that point. And no one talked about it. No, like, the only time, like, when Ben left, that there was these arguments back and forth, but no one, like, really was like, no, yeah, Dan can really do this. I think yesterday confirmed, like, hey, can we give the guy a little credit at this point?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like,
no, yeah, dude, he knows offense. I think there's, I want to see, for me, I want him to be able to call plays, and I hope that's the case for the rest of the year, and I hope he succeeds, and then for the future, he's just your play caller. I hope that's the case. I would be lying if I said I was already sold. I want to see him. I want to see him for the rest of the year. Just see how it goes.
I do agree with that.
And then after that, Booner, we can sit here and say this guy is, he's you know what, just call plays, Dan. You know what? Don't even hire it. You can keep John Morton for all I care, just to prep you. That's fine. Because I'm gonna be honest, we can crap on John Morton as a play caller, but he can get coaches prepared. That's what he's been doing in his career.
Man, at a high level too.
Prepared. He got John Gruden prepared. The problem with John Morton is not his offensive mind in terms of how he sees the game or preps a game. It's calling a game he can't do. So if he's going to help Dan get ready for the game, that guy's a grinder. I mean, he stays late in the office. He watches a shit ton of film. He's been an assistant for a long time in the NFL, and he's worked under good coaches. I'm not denying he can be a good assistant. My problem is just his play calling ability. But if that's his role, who knows? Maybe they want to keep him around. Because I'll tell you one thing, and this is me giving John Morton a little credit here. He's better at that job than Anthony Lynn would have been. I mean, he's better. He can do that. He's done that in the league. Like Anthony Lynn couldn't call plays or really had no use to be here anyway. I think there is a role for John Morton. I just don't think it's touching the play call sheet.
We said it the other day. Like if John is your OC, let's say next year, and Dan's calling plays, like it's like the LaFleur in LA, and it's like whoever, it's Matt Nagy. It's like you just have an elite offensive mind in there who those guys probably could call plays, but like John Morton, we know like, hey, he's probably not doesn't have a great feel for a game and kind of what to do with this offense, but he's going to watch film for you, and he's going to make sure Dan Campbell is ready to go at 1 p.m. every Sunday or 4:25 or whenever the game is. And he's going to know every tendency of a defense. And honestly, he might be able to be better at his job because guess what he doesn't have to worry about now? He doesn't have to worry about his play call sheet. He doesn't have to worry about making sure his drives are good to go and have to sit there and stress out about, hey, what do I want to call on a 3rd and 12? What do I want to call on a 2nd and 6 in the red zone? Like he doesn't have to worry about any of that anymore. All he has to worry about is making sure Dan Campbell's prepared. Dan Campbell, that you watched enough film so you know the tendencies of every defense, all of those sort of things. So I think he can be a very, very big asset to this team moving forward. That's why I think Dan's like, obviously we're not going to fire the guy. Like he's a very good offensive mind.
I do want to comment more on this, and then we'll get to my Brian Daboll take. But first, let me tell you about our friends over at Sleeper. I've interrupted the video to tell you about our friends over at Sleeper and the new promotion they have going on. A brand new promotion is now live on Sleeper that could be paired with the 100% deposit match promotion that's already been going on. It's a free $20, no deposit required, plus first-time users will also receive 100% deposit match up to $100. Use the code CT Sports. You guys should already be using Sleeper. It's one of the fastest organically growing fantasy platforms in the entire world with millions and millions of active users. They are crushing it. And if your state allows it, you should be using Sleeper Picks. It's a real money product that connects friends over picks. You just choose 2 to 8 of your favorite players from pregame live or across different sports. Pick more or less than the predicted stats. And on Sleeper, you can get up to 1,000x payouts. Share with your friends. Get rewarded together. Don't forget, code CT Sports. Get a $100 deposit up to $100, and you got your free $20 entry. Sleeper is taking care of their customers. Always remember, gamble responsibly. Now let's get back to the video. I'm going to comment on that John Morton thing you talked about there. Back with the Broncos, when he was the passing game coordinator, he got Sean Payton prepped for games. And Sean Payton obviously calls the plays. Bo Nix had a great year in the pass game. So Dan actually spoke about that. That's his strength, as being, his strength is the pass game, which is odd because they can't figure out the pass game at times, but calling plays. But prepping, I'm a supporter of that. I'm a supporter of him being in the booth, and now Lukas Klotz can rest at night knowing that he's in the booth, not calling plays. He's in the booth watching the game. All right, so you can sleep. He can sleep a little easier at night.
He's working.
I think it's a great fit for him. I mean, doesn't mean the guy. It's like I'm sure there's a role for him. It's just not the role he was in prior. So they'll figure it out. But
listen, too. He is good in the past. I went back today again. I was tracking different stats today. I went back and looked at the run and to pass differential versus Dan Campbell calling plays in the last 2 games of John Morton. It was significantly lopsided. And I know they were losing versus the Vikings, so you had to, but it was just like There's no establishing the run. The guy just loves to pass the ball. I love it. I mean, it was like a significant difference. I'm like I went and did every down run pass for both games, and I was like, it is eye opening. I mean, you got Dan Campbell out here on like 3rd and 10 running the ball and converting on it. And it's like, yeah, you could be like, defense sucks. This guy just has the iron, you know what, to be able to be like, make that play call. I respect it. John Morton's calling a screen pass on that play. You're giving it to Jahmyr Gibbs on the outside or running a counter and getting him in the open field somehow, some way.
I will say I before we get to the Dayball stuff, now that I have you here, I would like to get your thoughts on Day Fit. I do, because the chat's talking about Day Fit. So I think it's a perfect just to have a conversation.
So did you go back and watch the game? Did you go back and watch the game?
No, I didn't watch special teams.
So I did today. After your little fiasco that we had. And Dan commented on special teams today too. I think there's a world, I'll say this. I think there's a world once like the ball gets rolling and people start like bad things start happening to where people just will continue to go at someone. And I think with Dave Phipp, they had a bad week last week, special teams wise. I think that's a fact. I think that poisons people to automatically be like, oh, it's been bad all year, special teams, which it hasn't. Like Dave Phipp has been good special teams all season long. Last week was the worst week for sure. And then I think when you get fast forward to this last Sunday, and obviously coming off a bad special teams week, the first special teams moment of the game, Grant Stewart has a massive hit and they pins him back at like the 20-something yard line. And that was a great start for special teams. Then the next special teams possession that they have, you have essentially just a player, and I hate to do it because maybe he was in a bad position. I don't know. Dan Campbell mentioned it today about it, but he was like, you essentially just have one missed assignment. Again, hate to do it. My guy, Nick Whiteside, just misses a wide open tackle on the kick return. And then, the Commanders turn that into a big run where Jake Bates has to make the tackle. After that, every special teams play that I saw, obviously Jake Bates had a lower field goal, but every single thing about special teams after that was fine. Like there was nothing wrong with it. And I think people know that, see that return, Jeff, and it just instantly just think back to that one thing because you have that little piece of poison in your mind and you're like, oh, that's a one bad play. But really, it was just a guy who misses a tackle. And it's like, hey, like, what are we doing? And then Dan today in the press conference mentions, hey, special teams was very good this week. We're happy with where they were. They had one missed assignment. Besides that, I loved what I saw in special teams this week. So, like, listen, I get the conversation you guys had this morning. I think it was just a little too much. Like, I don't I get, like, trying to, let's blame the coordinator. Like, dude, Dave Phipp is one of the best special team coordinators in the NFL. That man's won a Super Bowl. He has consistently in his career had a good special teams unit. His special teams unit outside of probably last week has been good. We have never had a negative thing to say about it. Now, if this has been a problem for a year and you're going on year 2 and you're like, dude, this special teams is never it. Okay, we can have a conversation. But, like, you cannot say a coordinator needs to get this thing together when it's like, hey, maybe it's 1 or 2 week thing. That's players, man. Like, you got to step up and make plays. Like, at that point. Like, you're talking about a special teams coordinator for over the last 10 years has proven himself in this league, and he has constantly had a good unit. And then he has one bad week, and everyone's like, what's going on with Dave Phipp? And I said last week, I put 50% of the blame on Dave Phipp last year. I said, hey, you do have to get these guys ready to go. And there were moments earlier in the season where we're like, what's going on? But they're consistent. They're fine, man. I think that's the last, honestly, I think that's the last problem with this football team is being like, hey, Dave Phipp. Like, what are we doing here? I think that's the only ridiculous thing I think comes out of it. It's just like, take a step back, man. Like, Dave Phipp is one of the best in this industry in his job.
I listen. I don't want to. I'm not going to say fire Dave Phipp. I'm not going to say that.
I think going at coordinators. That's what I genuinely.
No. It's just like I
genuinely believe that. Like fans like to do that. I think you like to do it too.
No, it's not. You're just saying that because I went at John Morton and now I'm mentioning Dave Phipp.
I think you're addicted to it, which is fair.
No, all I'm really trying to say, Boone, is they've regressed significantly on special teams this year, and like I'm by the numbers. by the numbers.
Do you have the numbers?
I do. Would you like me to read them?
Yeah, go ahead. Let me hear them.
So in 2024, they were obviously a great unit. They were second in opponent punt return yards. Second. So they were great in opponent punt return yards. 12th in opponent kick return yards. So second in punt return yards for opponents, 12th. This year, they're 31st in kick return yards, 17th in punt return yards for opponents. So they've dropped from second to 17th on punts and 12th to 31st on kick return yards. So as much as I agree with you that players, they are responsible. Okay. Their players do take they take responsibility. I'm not denying that. It's the same argument we had. This seems like deja vu. Not that I'm not saying he's John Morton, but the argument we had when it was the O-line thing, you were insinuating I said it was 100% John Morton. And I was like, no, I don't want it. It's not on John. I'm not saying it's all on John Morton. Players obviously get responsibility. But I look at, okay, why is your unit significantly dropped off this year? What is going on? Is it players?
It could be players because you haven't had this issue ever with him. And if he was a new coordinator and he came in and there was a drop-off, I would be like, okay, it's the coordinator 100%.
But would you agree, though? And again,
it's different players in there. You have a full new unit essentially. Like half of those guys are new. You've had Sione Vaki out. You bring in Grant Stewart instead of Germ. You lose Germ, who was your special teams captain. So it's like you bring in new players, and I get it. Like it is part of coaching to make sure these guys are prepared. Like, hey, no matter who you have, you still have to be good. Like that's not an excuse. So that side of things, I can.
Yeah, that's really all I'm saying.
I'm just not going to sit here and be like, get Dave Phipp out of town.
No, I didn't say
and it's
that.
like, okay, he's a top 5 special teams coordinator in the NFL. You lose Dave Phipp, who do you get that's an upgrade? Like he's been one of the best in the league at his respected position over the last 5, 6, 7 years. Who do you get better? I mean, you're not finding anyone.
I don't want to say fire Dave Phipp. All I'm basically saying is I'm bringing it to attention to just say this needs to be like, we got to iron this out. We got to fix this shit. I mean, you can't be this bad on special teams. And can we agree that just because I would agree with this. Dave Phipp's resume gives him more leeway. But at the same time, if you can't get this fixed, we can agree, though, at some point in the next, like, let's say next year, it's still the same theme. You have to make a decision.
Yeah, dude, I'm so far off on special. Like, if there's like continued, like, there's multiple games this year where
like
you lose because of.
I'm just something to watch.
I think last week was the first week you genuinely could be like, if the special teams unit was good, wasn't this bad, you could have won that game. I don't know if there's been other games over the last year or even this year where you're like, hey, you lost that game because of your special teams unit. Where around the league that happens all the time. You just like they're never a liability, but then there also are games where you win games because of Dave Phipp, right? In that special teams unit. And that's happened multiple times with this team. Now, I'll tell you what, Jeff, if we get into this year and there's 3 or 4 more times this year, or let's say 2 or 3 more times this year where this does become an issue, and you're losing games, or that unit's putting you in a position to lose a game, and somehow you still win it, then yeah, there's a conversation to be had.
That's all.
I think Dan Campbell, he's quick to notice that and make that move. I just think we're so far off that with the guy with Dave Phipp. He's in year 3 or 4 with the Lions, and
I'll say I don't think we're close to firing him, but I think we're closer. We're closer.
We shouldn't even be saying that word in the same sentence as Dave Phipp.
I'm only saying it because I want to make
closer to firing him. We shouldn't even be saying that.
But the only reason why I'm saying it is because I know how you are. I need to make sure I'm not saying it.
Yeah, that word should never be used in the same.
No, but I'm saying
the
only reason I'm saying fired is because I'm saying Booner. I do not want him fired. To make sure
I'm just making sure. I don't even like. It makes me mad to hear the word fired in the same sentence as Dave Phipp.
All I'm saying is I'm bringing it up. I'm getting early to it just to say like, hey, something to watch. Like they haven't been great ranking this year.
Something to watch. It's low on the list of Lions things to watch, in my opinion.
Well, over the last 2 weeks, I think it's higher on the list.
No, over last week. This week, again, there was one play out of probably 15 special teams plays that was bad.
Yeah, but they're happening. They're not. You're seeing more things pop up more commonly.
I think last week.
You're basically saying they're 31st in opponent kick return yards for one game. They're 31st.
How many? Can I see when you say that 31st in yards? Can you do like average instead of total yards? Because it could affect on how many times they're kicking off. How many times are they allowing players to return?
It's the average distance an opponent returns a kick.
You guys send me these
30
stats. I need to see them.
Okay, so now you're questioning.
I need to see them in person. That's all I want to see, dude.
Okay,
I'm just trusting you, which I do trust you, but sometimes it's
literally
easy for me to send me the website. What are you on? Are you on like fakestats.com? I don't know.
Okay, no, I'm not on fake stats.
I'm on ESPN here. They are. I mean, things don't look great, but I'm interested to see. I see kickoffs here. They've had 34 kickoffs.
34 kickoffs. What does that do?
I don't know, dude. I'm trying to figure out what website you're on and getting these stats, man.
It's a website called
Dave
Lineup.
Fitt pulled up to the conference last week and gave that they were top 10 in like every category, and I was like, "There we go, Fitt.
Well,
how about that?"
It ain't looking like top. It ain't top 10 in every category. And I haven't looked at the other category. I'm just looking at the return yards. I think field goal percentage, they're almost dead last.
Yeah, but I will say this. They don't kick a lot of field goals, first of all. And when they do, it's like 50-plus yarders. Like they're like 2 for 6, I think, or 2 for 5 and 50
Yeah,
yarders.
that's why I didn't bring it up. I mean,
like field goal wise, I think Jake Bates has missed like 4 field goals all year. And it's because they've attempted like 65, 68, like, and those are the misses. So like, that's just such a
I only brought to the table what
weird stat to
use.
use.
That's all.
I think returns returns is fair, and that's something I think they've struggled on, and I think that's fair. I do believe like that game.
Punting's great always. Punting is obviously
yes. I do think though 2 weeks ago I think that game, not this last game, but the one before, I think that was just like a one-off, and I think it hurt their overall as a unit. And like you're like, well, the last 2 weeks, like I just don't count, like, and especially if Dan Campbell steps up to the press conference is like, I loved the special teams unit this week. I just don't see a world where we can be like the last 2 weeks and use yesterday outside of that one return where just a player misses a one-on-one tackle as like hey, the last 2 weeks they've struggled, because they really didn't yesterday. It was just that one return. It did set up for a field goal, but that's 3 points, you know.
No, I will say I do want to bring up the Brian Daboll stuff for the last 14 minutes of the show and kind of get the chat.
Dave Phipps is not on notice.
Before we,
I think Full Slate's trolling me. I think he is.
Before we get to the Brian Daboll stuff, we do have a new sponsor we're debuting today, a new commercial. So hear about our friends over at Prestige Worldwide. By the way, if you're a bar owner,
Prestige Worldwide.
Thing for you. I've interrupted the show to tell you about our friends over at Prestige Worldwide Vending. State-of-the-art vape vending machines that can boost sales to any venue, business owners, or anyone that has an establishment that customers are coming in and out of. Prestige Worldwide Vending can help not only attract new customers, but keep customers inside your establishment. Nicotine users that leave to go get nicotine, it'll be right in the place they're at. 32-inch touchscreen, customizable advertisement, which is sweet, by the way. Age verification software to scan IDs confirming age, pre-sale if required. You can pay cash, credit, debit, or mobile. Mobile payments are also accepted, and you get paid when they get paid. It's a win-win. You make your customers happy. You make money on the side. And of course, working with a company like Prestige Worldwide Vending, who is on the up and up, can only benefit your business. Shout out to them for sponsoring the show. Now let's get back to it. All right. So the Brian Daboll stuff. Let's say, by the way, shout out Prestige Worldwide. Shout out Step Brothers, by the way. It's a great company name.
It is. It really is.
I tweeted this out today. Pissed a lot of people off, which I typically tend to do sometimes. And I tweeted this out as soon as the Giants fired Brian Daboll. I said, the New York Giants just fired Brian Daboll. Hear me out, Lions fans. The Detroit Lions should hire Brian Daboll to be their next offensive coordinator. I didn't put in here, it's contingent on if Dan wants to hire an offensive play caller. If he wants to continue it, that's fine. But if he does want a new OC, I think Brian Daboll's the man. And I said this. I think the best replacement for John Morton is someone who has done it at a high level before. He was there early with Josh Allen. Josh Allen has credited, obviously, Brian Daboll, one of his favorite human beings, which, to be honest with you, I think he's probably going to be back in Buffalo, if I'm being honest. And it's probably a reality. But if he isn't, and you need an OC, I think Brian Daboll is the perfect fit. Josh Allen in 2020 with Brian Daboll, career high in yards, career high in touchdowns. Bills offense in 2020, second in points, second in yards. Bills offense in 2021, third in points, fifth in yards. Already has a prior relationship with Dan Campbell, dating back to Miami. And the thing I love about Brian Daboll is I call it it's the Kellen Moore move to me. All right. And it's like the Eagles except Sirianni decided he didn't want to call plays. So they hired Kellen Moore. And if Dan Campbell does the exact same thing, they went from a guy who they hired from within and it didn't work out. So they went and got a proven dude And then Nick Sirianni said, Kellen Moore, sit down. This is what I want this offense to look like. You're a bright dude. You've called plays. You know what you're doing. This is what it looks like. Fix it. And also, Kellen Moore and Nick Sirianni didn't have a relationship like Dan and Brian do. So I think they would think similarly in some ways. And I know people commented and were like, well, Brian Daboll as a head coach was a disaster. I mean, he's not going to be, he's not going to the medical tent for Jared Goff. Like, he's literally just calling plays. That's going to be his job. So I think if Dan wants to hire an OC, I would rather have Brian Daboll, and I'm going to say it, than Mike McDaniel, personally.
I mean, this is, whoa. Well, you really went out on a limb there, man.
Oh, it's just the conversation of like hiring a guy who's been an OC. Like, I would rather go Brian Daboll. I think he's the best option if you were to go get one, if Dan doesn't want to call plays. So that's what I believe. I would love Brian Daboll. I think him and Jared Goff would work perfectly together. I mean, you see Jackson Dart balling. He's good with quarterbacks. He's really good.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing is just like, he's good with specific quarterbacks. Like, he was good with Josh Allen, who's like an MVP, like can run the ball. He's a mobile quarterback. He's very elusive. He can do a lot with, in the offense. And the same with the Jackson Dart. And you've seen like Brian Daboll, what did he do with the quarterback that might not be as that level? Like with I don't want to say it, but you know what I'm talking about. Daniel Jones, like he struggled with that. He struggled with Russell Wilson. So I don't know. Like it's an up and down situation. Obviously, they didn't have a lot in New York for him to work with. I think it was a good offensive mind. Again, I don't know. I see what you're saying. Like I'm catching it. I'm with you a little bit.
Catching it.
That when you text us today about that, and I'm just being honest with you, like I think this with anyone right away when there's like a firing or a player that comes available. I think of this instantly. When I was running socials at Woodward, and it was me and Klotz when Klotz first joined our first off season there. One of the biggest things we did was every single time a player became available.
Oh, yeah.
And I love, Klotz knows this too, because I told him this. Klotz would put out a tweet and be like, should the Lions get this player? And it became a joke where it was like, everyone's going to sign with the Detroit Lions. And that was the feeling I got today with Brian Daboll. Like, as soon as I saw he got fired, I was like, here we go. Like, Lions just, obviously John Morton loses the calling, yesterday. And then, boom, Brian Daboll. Every Lions fan's going to be like, Lions, here we go. And it's like, okay, relax. Like, let's take a step back here for a second. And if Mike McDaniels gets fired, guess what? Right away, boom, I can guarantee we're going to get a couple texts like, Mike Daniels, like, okay, relax. If Zach Taylor gets fired, it's gonna be, bring Zach Taylor in. And it's like, I just get that feeling every time. I kind of want to let it play out. Like, again, I want to see what happens with Dan Campbell. And then, like, once this offseason comes around, all right, we can have this Brian Daboll conversation. And if it actually makes sense and Dan's like, hey, we are going to rehire, all right, then yeah, let's make that move and see if it makes sense. I don't know, like, for me with Brian Daboll is there is that connection. I do think that Brian Daboll, I don't think he should have been fired. Personally, I know in New York, a lot of people did because they didn't like how he was running Jackson Dart into the ground, all of that. The thing that worries me, someone put in the chat there, it's like, this is a very specific offense. Like, a Brian Daboll's going to come in and want to run it his way, right? And whether you say, no, he won't, he'll adapt. Like, no, we thought the same thing. John Morton would come in and adapt, and he didn't do that. And I know John Morton and Brian Daboll are different coaches. One's way better level. One's been a head coach, OC, been good at it. But he is going to want to be able to come in and do it his way. And we've seen this offense already work the Dan Campbell way. So I would be interested, like, if you were to make that move, is Brian Daboll willing to, hey, I'll keep doing it the way you guys have been doing it because there's been success. I don't know.
Do you believe that Brian Daboll would come here and want to do it his way and not maybe? Yeah,
I mean, again, it's like John Morton, like, not
because I think he would be cool with Dan. Like, Dan would be like,
yeah, I think so. But again, like, that's if you heard what I said at the beginning, not fully his way, but he's going to want to put his twist on the offense, which I don't think that's like that's a fact. Like, any coordinator is going to come in and want to put their twist. Now, maybe it's a good twist, like with Ben Johnson. When Ben Johnson had Dan Campbell's offense, put his twist on it, it worked out really well. And maybe Brian Daboll's would be, maybe Mike McDaniels would be, but that's just like I think the risk you have to take. I do like the analogy of that's kind of your Kellen Moore. I do like that because he is someone who does have a very good offensive mind and has been proven in the NFL.
And the thing with Kellen Moore that I think is the reason why I think it would work if it were to happen. Again, I'm early to it, but it's just something I was thinking about, so I tweeted it out. But the reason why I think it would work is Kellen Moore was with Justin Herbert and with Dak Prescott before Jalen Hurts. Those two, they throw the ball. You know, they throw for 4,500 passing yards a year. And then he goes to Philly in a run-first, heavy run offense with Saquon and Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, how many passing yards do you have with Kellen Moore? Probably like 3,000. But they thrived. They changed he basically did the opposite of what he was usually doing with like his prior teams, and it worked. So I would like to think, maybe this is just me being hopeful, that a guy like Brian Daboll with the offensive mind he has would be able to be like, all right, you know, maybe I don't have a quarterback that can run like Josh Allen, but we can make this thing work in maybe a different way, but still have success. I don't know. I think it's more likely if it were to happen than like a Mike McDaniel or like you mentioned, Zach Taylor, if Lions fans would probably be saying that, is because he has a relationship. It's like a win-win. Dan knows him, but he's not in the building already. So you go get a proven dude, but you still know the guy. So it's not like you're promoting Scotty Montgomery.
It is an interesting thing. I do think it's interesting. I don't think they can promote within. I don't think you can go out and get a non-proven guy. And if you do that, I think there's three options with this. I think there's one, you go out and get like, is it Mike LaFleur in LA? Like you go get a young mind, a young offensive mind like that, similar to Ben Johnson, and you bring him in next year. Second option, you go out and get a proven guy like a Brian Daboll, even Mike McDaniels or Zach Taylor. You go out and get a proven guy and make the moves like the Eagles did. And then the third option, it turns into, hey, Dan Campbell's play caller, and you kind of get a guy that can come in and be his right-hand guy that he trusts at a very high level. So I think those are the three things that you're looking at right now. I know someone in the chat said, well, how do you know that John Morton's not going to take over and learn from Dan? I just don't see that. I don't see you going back to something that just didn't work out. No, it's a tough look that way. And whether Dan said it or not, I still think like as a fan base, and I think Dan is very smart with that, and is in a room, in the offensive room there. Obviously, like the post game, those guys seemed a little bit, I wouldn't say like happy that John Morton got play calling taken away, but you could tell that there was a different type of energy. Jahmyr Gibbs essentially being like, yeah, we just weren't as predictable. Like him just straight up accidentally slipping and saying that. Just, you know.
Yeah, I saw someone say, Xavier, I think shout out to Xavier, he said it's not going to happen mid-season. This is never going to happen mid-season.
This is going to be an off-season conversation. Yeah, Dan's your play caller all year.
Yeah, I'm not saying that would never happen because it's not just Xavier. Someone else commented on the video I made today and was like, this isn't going to happen mid-season. No. I mean, no.
I think it's just a thought, an early thought. Jeff wants to beat everyone to the race if it happens, which I love. He did it with Ben Johnson. He wanted to do. He attempted it at Tanner Engstrand about 4 years early, and now he's trying it with Brian Daboll. So I respect it.
Yeah, that's all. That's all it is.
Jeff wants to be first to the party. I kind of love it.
Donna O says Dan is head coach, Shep is DC, and McDaniels as OC would be elite.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing too. I know, Jeff, you're like, I'd rather have Daboll. I wouldn't be mad if they brought Mike McDaniels in.
I think he's. I
think that would be.
I think he just gives me. I just don't.
You don't like his energy, but I think like dude. as not a non-leader, like if he's in there as an OC, that's what you want out of your OC. Like I know you're like Ben wasn't like that. You know, Ben was. You remember Ben on the sidelines last year with Chicago and all those plays? Like Ben is a goofy dude. Like you see him after the Bears games now, where he's like, yeah, like Ben's. He's not.
Did you see the Mike McDaniel clip of him driving by the Bills bar?
Yeah, like why wouldn't you want that? That's a good energy, dude. He's a funny guy. As long as that's not your head coach, if that's just a guy in your building, like a coordinator, like you're like, this guy's awesome. Like this guy's hilarious, man. But I mean, obviously, as your head coach, you're like, dude, you're a goofball. Like you're not leading me.
Look at this guy.
You know? I mean,
look at this guy.
How would you not want this guy in your building? Look at those glasses, dude. I would love him there.
I mean, this guy's got like porn shades on, dude. Like 1970s.
Mike McDaniels he's a funny guy. His interviews too, man. When he does interviews, he's a funny guy.
Yeah,
he's good as an OC because like an OC, like you don't have to be in the media all the time. And like, I think the problem too with him as a head coach is like maybe like the world's getting too much of him. You know, like. Too much.
Like it wears people down.
Where if you're an OC, you know, you're still out there like, but if he just has to focus on his offense and not leading a football team, think about how like the weapons that he would have here, and like if he does run the Dan Campbell type style and puts a Mike McDaniels twist to it with J-Mo and with Amon-Ra, with Jahmyr Gibbs and Demont and Jared and Sam, I feel like Mike McDaniels, like that man. I mean, he went to Harvard. You're gonna see plays you've never seen before. I mean, that's that man's dream. I bet he probably wants to get fired to attempt to get this Lions job.
MCV, who says that looks like a guy you played cards with. Yeah, like that's Mike McDaniels.
That's what you want from your an assistant coach. An assistant, you want to be able to play cards with your assistant. You know.
Oh, by the way, Richard says overreaction or no. We should have a segment for that too. Overreaction or no, or something like that. That's a good.
Yeah, I like that.
He says the Detroit Pistons are looking like championship contenders. Well, right now they're tied with the Wizards.
Yeah, not looking great.
They're out Tobias and Asar Thompson tonight, so they have some injuries.
By the way, too,
and they don't
Caleb
have
sent a parlay, and he had Ron Holland 2 threes. We're almost at halftime. Ron Holland has 0 points.
He has he's 0 for 2
with 0 points.
You know, he called me and he goes, because I sent him, because he was telling me Asar Thompson was out, so he was telling me to change the parlay. But he goes, by the way, I'm thinking Ron Holland 2 threes or Javonte Green 2 threes. They're both like 0 for 4, I think.
They're 0 for 5 combined. I took it too. When he sends it, I take it, dude. I tell him, send him, I'll take him, and I did it. And he's 0 for 5. It's brutal.
So I don't know. That's a tough one there, but
maybe we get one here at the end of the.
Don't have Karis LeVert either, man. They literally have Bobby Klitman playing. By the way, shout out Bobby Klitman. He nailed a 3 today. 3 minutes came in, nailed.
Chaz Lanier has 5 points.
Literally, their bench is Paul Reed, Bobby Klitman, Chaz Lanier, and Dennis Jenkins. That's their 4 off the bench, dude. They don't have. That's a tough bench, man. That's a tough bench, and they're down 2 starters. So, and they're still, I think they're up 2 right now against the Wizards. So, yeah, it's pretty tough. Any last thoughts, Boone, before we transition here?
No, man. We get to this football game, and we got 150 people in here. Make sure you guys hit the like, and then head over to the stream. Can we also? Is the stream link up?
Yep, it's going to be.
Let's do this. So it's going to link. What I'm going to do to help the people. Hold on, don't do anything yet, Jeff. I'm going to do this as well.
Yeah, come hang out with us. The watch party. We'll be live.
Everyone right now, just click this. We're going to be watching this. This is a big NFC matchup game, so it's huge. That's the reason why we're not staying live all night, is so we can watch this. I mean, I feel like everyone's going to be watching it anyway. So head over to that stream, and we'll be live in just a couple minutes here.
All right, we'll see you guys there. Click the link. We'll see you guys in a couple minutes. Peace.
Love you guys.